Natalie's husband asked for a divorce every single Thursday for a year and a half. 101 times, Preston looked at her across their expensive penthouse and casually said, "I want a divorce," like he was ordering pepperoni pizza. For 5 years, Natalie said no. She begged. She went to therapy alone. She shrunk herself trying to be the perfect wife. Until that 101 time when she finally looked him in the eye and said, "Okay, let's do it." Preston's jaw dropped. He never thought she'd actually agree. But what Preston didn't know was that Natalie had been hiding a secret. She was the daughter of one of the most feared men in the underworld. And what Natalie didn't know, Kang Dae-won, the dangerous Korean Mafia CEO who ran the entire West Coast, had been obsessed with her for months. He'd been waiting, watching, and now that she was finally free, he was ready to make his move. Before we dive into Natalie's dangerous new world, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss our dark romance stories. Drop a comment telling me, would you give someone 101 chances, or would you walk away sooner? Now, let's get into this story. Natalie Odilla Harrison had mastered the art of making herself smaller. At 5'9" with rich, dark skin that glowed like polished mahogany, curves that commanded attention, and natural hair she wore in intricate styles that took hours to complete, small should have been impossible. Yet she'd spent 5 years shrinking herself to fit into Preston Harrison's pristine, calculated world. Their penthouse in downtown Seattle was a monument to his success, all white marble, chrome fixtures, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Puget Sound. It was beautiful. Cold. Just like their marriage. "I want a divorce, Natalie." Preston stood in the doorway of their bedroom, still wearing his tailored Tom Ford suit from the law firm where he'd made junior partner. His blonde hair was perfectly styled, his blue eyes devoid of emotion. He delivered the line the same way he'd order coffee, casual, expected, routine. It was Thursday. He always asked on Thursdays. Natalie sat at her vanity, slowly removing her pearl earrings, a gift from Preston's mother, who'd never quite approved of her son marrying that black girl, regardless of Natalie's dual master's degrees in art history and business. "Okay," she said softly. Preston blinked. "What?" "Okay, I'll give you a divorce." Natalie met his eyes in the mirror's reflection, her expression serene. The color drained from his face. "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking, Preston?" She stood, her silk robe flowing around her like liquid night. "You've asked me for a divorce 101 times. I kept count. Every single Thursday for the past year and a half, plus a few special occasions. Our anniversary. My birthday. That was particularly thoughtful. Natalie, The first time, I cried for 3 days," she continued, her voice steady, clinical. "I begged you to go to counseling. You said you were too busy. The 20th time, I stopped crying. The 50th time, I stopped caring. And now I'm just tired, Preston. So yes, let's get divorced." Preston's shock morphed into something uglier, anger. "You think you can make it without me? You think anyone else will want you?" There it was. The cruelty that had been lurking beneath his passive aggression for years, finally bared like fangs. "I guess I'll find out." Natalie walked past him toward the guest room where she'd been sleeping for months. "My attorney will contact yours tomorrow. I want nothing from you except my freedom." "Your attorney?" Preston laughed harshly. "With what money? Your little art gallery barely breaks even. I've been supporting you." "My gallery made $2.3 million in revenue last year," Natalie interrupted, her voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. "But you've never actually looked at the financial statements I send you monthly, so you wouldn't know that. You can keep the penthouse. I'll be out by the weekend." She closed the guest room door in his stunned face and locked it. Then, and only then, did she let out the breath she'd been holding. Freedom. The word tasted like honey and ashes on her tongue. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on your liberation. I've been waiting. KD." Natalie's heart stuttered. She knew exactly who KD was. Everyone in Seattle's underground knew Kang Dae-won. The first time Natalie saw Kang Dae-won was 6 months ago, at a charity auction for the Seattle Art Museum. She'd been representing her gallery, dressed in a gold evening gown that hugged every curve, her hair styled in elegant Bantu knots adorned with gold cuffs. Preston had been too busy to attend, as usual. She'd felt the weight of someone's gaze and turned to find a man watching her from across the room. He looked like a Greek god loaned to mere mortals. Handsome didn't do justice to what he looked like. Tall, easily 6'2", with a kind of face that belonged in classical paintings. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, eyes so dark they appeared black in the chandelier light. His hair was styled back, revealing a face of perfect symmetry and cold beauty. He wore a black suit that was tailored to emphasize broad shoulders and a lean, powerful build. But it wasn't his physical appearance that made Natalie's breath catch. It was the way he looked at her. Like he was seeing past her skin, past her dress, past every wall she'd built, directly into her soul. Like he was cataloguing every secret she kept and finding them all fascinating. Mrs. Harrison. He'd approached with the fluid grace of a predator, his voice deep with a slight Korean accent that made her name sound like poetry. Your gallery's exhibition on Afrofuturism last month was extraordinary. You attended. She'd been surprised. The exhibition had been in her smaller gallery in the Central District, not the kind of place she'd expect to see someone who screamed old money and dangerous power. I attend all your exhibitions. His lips curved into a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. You have an exceptional eye for art that challenges perspectives. The piece by the Ethiopian artist, Dawit Abebe, the one exploring identity and duality. I purchased it. That piece sold to an anonymous buyer for $450,000. Yes. I prefer privacy in my acquisitions. He'd extended his hand. Kang Dae-won. She'd known she shouldn't touch him. Something about this man screamed danger. She'd taken his hand anyway. The contact had sent electricity shooting up her arm. His hand was warm, strong, his grip confident but not crushing. He'd held her hand a fraction longer than appropriate, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that felt deliberately intimate. Natalie Odilla Harrison. Her voice had come out breathier than intended. I know who you are. His eyes had held hers captive. The question is, do you know who you are? Before she could respond, Preston had appeared, placing a possessive hand on her lower back. He'd shown up after all, probably when one of his colleagues mentioned the event. Darling, we should go, Preston had said, barely glancing at Dae-won. I have an early meeting. Dae-won's expression hadn't changed, but something cold and dangerous had flickered in his eyes. Of course. Don't let me keep you. He'd looked at Natalie. I look forward to our next conversation, Mrs. Harrison. Something tells me it will be soon. That had been 6 months ago. Since then, she'd seen him everywhere. At the coffee shop near her gallery. At the organic market where she shopped. Standing across the street from her penthouse, looking up at her window. He never approached, never spoke. Just watched. It should have terrified her. Instead, she'd felt seen for the first time in years. And now, he was texting her. Natalie stared at her phone, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She should block the number. She should be afraid. She typed, "How did you get this number?" The response was immediate. I own half of Seattle, Natalie. Getting your number was the easy part. Having the patience to wait for you has been the challenge. Wait for what? For you to realize you deserve more than a man who asks for divorce like it's a habit. For you to remember who you were before you tried to fit into his small world. For you to come home. Home. To yourself. To your power. To me. Natalie's hands trembled. You don't know me. I know you're Adewale Odili's daughter, though you've been hiding from that legacy since you left Nigeria at 18. I know you have a genius IQ and speak 5 languages. I know you're afraid of thunderstorms but you stand in the rain anyway because you refuse to let fear control you. I know your husband has been cheating on you with his paralegal for 2 years, and you've known for 18 months but stayed anyway because you're loyal to a fault. I know you're stronger than you believe, more powerful than you've allowed yourself to be, and so goddamn beautiful it's painful to look at you. Natalie's breath stopped. Her father. Dae-won knew about her father. Adewale Odili was a name whispered in certain circles, the head of an African syndicate that controlled diamond trade, art trafficking, and information brokering across 3 continents. A king in the shadows. Natalie had run from that world, wanting normalcy, safety, love. She'd found none of it. What do you want from me? She typed. Everything. But for tonight, I just want to buy you dinner. No obligations. No games. Just two people having a conversation. Say yes, Natalie. She should say no. This man was dangerous. This man was exactly the kind of life she'd run from. Where and when, she typed. I'm downstairs. Whenever you're ready. Oh, it's getting intense. Is Natalie making a mistake, or is this exactly what she needs? Make sure you're subscribed because this story is about to get even more dangerous. Drop a like if you're Team Day One, and comment if you think Natalie should run in the opposite direction. Now, back to the story. Natalie changed quickly, shedding the silk robe for a black turtleneck dress that hugged her figure, paired with a leather jacket and heeled boots. She left her wedding ring on the nightstand. Preston knocked on the door. Natalie, we need to talk about this rationally. Not tonight, Preston. She opened the door, watching his eyes widen as he took in her outfit. I'm going out. Going out. It's 10 p.m. and we're in the middle of getting a divorce. Yes. Which means what I do is no longer your concern. She walked past him, grabbed her purse, and headed for the elevator. Natalie. Preston followed her. Where are you going? The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside and pressed the button for the lobby. As the doors began to close, she met Preston's eyes. I'm going to remember who I am. The doors shut on his shocked face. Her reflection stared back at her in the elevator's mirrored walls. When was the last time she'd seen this woman? The one with fire in her eyes and steel in her spine? The one who'd walked away from an empire because she'd wanted to build her own? The elevator descended, and with each floor, Natalie felt layers of pretense falling away. The doors opened to the lobby. Kang Dae-won stood waiting, hands in the pockets of his black slacks, his suit jacket perfectly tailored. He'd removed his tie, and the top button of his white shirt was undone, offering a glimpse of his throat. His eyes tracked her as she approached, that intense gaze that made her feel naked and powerful all at once. You came, he said softly. I almost didn't. But you did. That's what matters. He offered his arm. Shall we? Natalie hesitated for only a moment before taking it. The doorman's eyes widened. Clearly, he recognized Dae-won. Outside, a sleek black Maybach waited, a driver holding the door open. Of course. They slid into the backseat, the interior all cream leather and dark wood. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly, heading into the Seattle night. Where are we going? Natalie asked. My restaurant. I've closed it for the evening. Privacy seemed appropriate. Dae-won's arm rested along the back of the seat, not touching her but close enough that she felt his heat. Unless you'd prefer somewhere else. You closed an entire restaurant for dinner. I wanted your undivided attention. I'm selfish that way. His lips quirked. It's one of my better qualities. Despite herself, Natalie laughed. What are your worst qualities? I'm possessive. Ruthless. I don't believe in second chances for those who betray me. I've killed men for lesser offenses than how your husband has treated you. He said it casually, like discussing the weather. And when I want something, I don't stop until it's mine. And you want me. I've wanted you since the moment I saw you. His voice dropped, intimate in the car's darkness. You were laughing at something, your head thrown back, and the light caught your skin and made you glow like a goddess. I watched you all evening, studying art with such focus, such passion. And then I saw your husband approach you, saw how your light dimmed, how you made yourself smaller, quieter. I wanted to kill him then. I've wanted to kill him every day since. But you didn't. Because you loved him. Or thought you did. Dae-won's hand moved to her face, his fingers tracing her jawline with devastating gentleness. I was waiting for you to stop loving him. To start loving yourself again. Natalie should pull away. This was madness. This man was a criminal, dangerous, everything she'd tried to escape. But his touch felt like coming home. You said I'm like my father, she whispered. You're wrong. I ran from that world. No, Gyeongyang. The Korean word rolled off his tongue like silk. You ran from your father's choices, not from your own power. There's a difference. What does that word mean? Gyeongyang. Beloved. Treasure. His thumb brushed her lower lip. Mine. The car stopped. They'd arrived at a restaurant in Pioneer Square, the historic district. The sign read Kyonsa in elegant script, Angel in Korean. You own this? Natalie asked as Dae-won helped her out of the car. One of 15 restaurants, 17 clubs, 3 hotels, and various other enterprises. He kept her hand in his as they walked to the entrance. The legitimate ones, anyway. The interior was breathtaking. Modern Korean design met classic elegance, dark wood, paper lanterns casting soft light, a traditional Hanok-style dining area visible through shoji screens. The entire restaurant was empty except for one table set for 2. A woman in an elegant hanbok greeted them, bowing deeply. Mr. Kang. Everything is prepared. Thank you, Ji-won. Dae-won led Natalie to the table, pulling out her chair himself. As she sat, Natalie noticed there were no menus. I took the liberty of planning the meal, Dae-won explained, taking his seat across from her. But if there's anything you don't eat, I trust you. The words came out before she could think about them. Dae-won's eyes flashed with something fierce and hungry. Dangerous words, Natalie. I thought you wanted me to remember my power. Powerful women aren't afraid of danger. No, he agreed, a slow smile spreading across his devastating face. They aren't. The meal began, course after course of exquisite food. Korean dishes with West African influences, a fusion that shouldn't work but absolutely did. Bulgogi with suya spices. Kim kai made with Scotch bonnet peppers. Native oil rice. How did you? Natalie tasted the rice, her eyes closing in bliss. It tasted like her childhood, like her mother's kitchen in Lagos. I had my chef study your mother's cookbook. She published one before she died, yes? Traditional Nigerian recipes with modern twists. Natalie's throat tightened. You're telling me you had someone track down my mother's out-of-print cookbook and learn her recipes? I wanted to give you a taste of home. Why? The question came out broken. Why are you doing all this? Dae-won set down his chopsticks, leaning forward. Because from the moment I saw you, you've been in my head, in my blood, in my bones. Because I've built an empire, and none of it means anything if I can't share it with someone who understands what it costs. Because you're brilliant and strong and you've been wasting your light on a man who couldn't even see it. His hand covered hers on the table. Because I'm falling in love with you, and I don't fall. I conquer. But with you, I'm on my knees. You don't know me, Natalie protested weakly. Then let me. No more hiding. No more pretending to be less than you are. His grip tightened. I know who your father is. I know what blood runs in your veins. I'm not afraid of your darkness, Natalie. I want to dance in it with you. My father is a criminal. A killer. So am I. Dae-won's smile was sharp as a blade. The difference is, I chose this life. You ran from it, but it's still there, isn't it? In the way you can read people. In the strategic mind that turned a failing gallery into a multi-million-dollar business. In the steel I see in you when you stop pretending to be soft. Natalie pulled her hand back, standing abruptly. I need air. There's a garden. Through those doors. Dae-won didn't try to stop her. She walked outside into a traditional Korean garden. Stone paths, a small pond, cherry blossom trees that would be stunning in spring. Now, in late autumn, their bare branches reached toward the sky like grasping fingers. Natalie wrapped her arms around herself, breathing in the cool night air. She heard Dae-won approach before she saw him, his footsteps deliberate, giving her time to tell him to leave. She didn't. I haven't spoken to my father in 7 years, she said quietly. I was supposed to take over part of his operation. He had plans for me. Political connections, social engineering, information gathering. I was good at it. Too good. And I hated how good I was at manipulation, at reading people's weaknesses and exploiting them. So you ran to Seattle. Became an art dealer. Married a man as different from your father as possible. Preston was safe. Normal. Boring, even. Natalie laughed bitterly. I thought that's what I wanted. And now? Now I think I was just afraid. She turned to face him. Afraid of becoming my father. Afraid of the parts of me that enjoyed the game, the strategy, the power. Dae-won moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the best way. Your father's choices aren't your destiny. You can be powerful without being him. You can embrace your strength without losing your soul. And what about you? Natalie challenged. You're a criminal. A killer. You said so yourself. How many people have died by your order? More than I can count, he admitted without flinching. I'm not a good man, Natalie. I won't lie to you and say I am. I run the Korean Mafia on the West Coast. I control drugs, weapons, information, politicians, judges. I've built an empire on blood and fear. Then why would I ever choose you? Because I'll never lie to you. Never diminish you. Never ask you to be smaller so I can feel bigger. He reached for her face, cradling it between his hands. Because I see all of you, the brilliance, the darkness, the fear, the power, and I want it all. Because I'll burn the world down before I let anyone hurt you. And because when you look at me, you feel it too. Feel what? This. He leaned down, his lips hovering just above hers. Tell me no, and I'll walk away. Tell me you don't want this, don't want me, and I'll disappear from your life. Natalie's heart thundered. She should say no. Should run. Instead, she grabbed his shirt and pulled him down, closing the distance between them. The kiss was devastating. Day One groaned against her mouth, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pulled her flush against him. He kissed like he did everything else, with complete focus, ruthless intensity, and an expertise that made her knees weak. Natalie had been kissed before. Preston's kisses were polite, perfunctory. This was being devoured. Day One's tongue swept into her mouth, claiming, exploring. He kissed her like he was memorizing the taste of her, like he wanted to consume her and be consumed in return. His hand fisted in her hair, angling her head exactly how he wanted it, and the dominance of the gesture made heat pool low in her belly. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Day One rested his forehead against hers. You're mine now, he said, and it wasn't a question. I'm not a possession, Natalie countered, but her hands were still fisted in his shirt. No. You're a queen. And I'm the king who's going to worship at your feet while ruling by your side. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, tender in contrast to the passion of moments before. Come home with me tonight. Not for sex, he added quickly. Just, stay with me. Let me hold you. Let me show you what it's like to be cherished. Every logical part of Natalie's brain screamed no. She was still married, even if it was ending. This man was dangerous. This was too fast, too intense. But when had logic ever given her happiness? Okay, she whispered. Day One's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. Day One's home wasn't a home, it was a fortress disguised as a mansion. Located in the exclusive Broadmoor neighborhood, the estate sprawled across 5 acres, surrounded by high walls and sophisticated security. The house itself was a masterpiece of modern architecture, glass, steel, and stone in perfect harmony. You live here alone? Natalie asked as they drove through the gates. I have staff. And security. Day One's hand rested on her thigh, a possessive touch she found herself leaning into. But yes, I live alone. I've been waiting for the right person to share it with. The driver opened the door, and Day One helped her out. The entrance was understated elegance, a waterfall feature, floating stairs, art on the walls that Natalie recognized as original pieces worth millions. Is that a basket? She moved closer to a vibrant painting. You have a good eye. Yes. I have 3 more in my private collection upstairs. He helped her out of her jacket. I told you, I attend all your exhibitions because I respect your expertise. I've bought 17 pieces based on your gallery's recommendations. 17. Would you like to see them? He led her through the house, and Natalie fell more in love with each room. It wasn't just the luxury, though everything was exquisite. It was the care, the curation. Each piece of art, each design choice, spoke of someone with depth and intelligence. This is beautiful, she breathed, standing in his gallery room. The 17 pieces created a narrative, African diaspora, identity, resistance, hope. You chose them, Day One said from behind her. I just purchased your vision. Natalie turned to find him watching her with that intense gaze. You said you're falling in love with me. But you don't know me, not really. You know facts. Information. Then tell me what I don't know. He moved closer. Tell me your fears, your dreams, your secrets. I'm afraid, Natalie admitted. Afraid of who I become when I stop holding back. When I was 16, my father had me sit in on a negotiation with a rival. I watched him manipulate this man into surrendering territory without the man even realizing it. Afterward, my father asked me what I observed. I told him 17 different psychological tactics he'd employed, and 4 additional angles he'd missed. You were 16. 16. And I loved it. The chess game. The strategy. I loved seeing how people worked, how to pull their strings. She wrapped her arms around herself. That's the part of me I ran from. Because what does it say about me that I enjoyed it? It says you're brilliant. Strategic. Those are gifts, Natalie. Day one turned her to face him. The question isn't whether you have the capacity for manipulation. It's what you do with it. Your father uses it for power and profit. You could use it for protection. For building something meaningful. And what do you use it for? Survival. Control. Revenge. His honesty was brutal. I grew up in Busan, South Korea. My father was a fisherman. Poor, honest, kind. A gang wanted protection money. He didn't have it. They killed him in front of me. I was 12. Natalie's breath caught. Day one. My mother died a year later. Grief, the doctors said. I think it was a broken heart. His jaw clenched. I was sent to live with my uncle here in Seattle. He was connected, Korean Mafia. He saw something in me. Anger. Intelligence. Ruthlessness. He trained me. By 19, I'd killed the men who murdered my father. By 25, I'd taken over the organization. By 30, I controlled the West Coast. How old are you now? 34. He traced her cheekbone. And I've spent the last 10 years building power, thinking that would fill the void. Then I saw you, and I realized what I'd been missing. Not just companionship, but an equal. Someone who understands the cost of power and chooses how to wield it anyway. I'm not sure I'm choosing to wield it, Natalie protested. You already do. You've built a business. You've survived a marriage designed to crush your spirit. You've kept your father's enemies from finding you, and believe me, if I found you, they could have too. That takes skill. His hands settled on her waist. Stop running from your power. Own it. And if I become someone I don't like, then I'll be there to remind you who you are. He leaned down, his lips brushing her ear. I'll worship you and challenge you and catch you if you fall. But I think you're stronger than you believe, Gyeongyang. I think you could rule the world if you wanted to. Natalie pulled back to meet his eyes. I don't want to rule the world. What do you want? Choice. Freedom. To build something meaningful. To be seen, really seen, and still loved. The admission came out raw, vulnerable. Then that's what I'll give you. Day one's promise was a vow. Stay with me, Natalie. Not just tonight. Stay and build something with me. Your gallery, expand it. Your vision, share it. I have resources, connections. And if anyone threatens you, they'll have to go through me. This is crazy. I've been separated from my husband for all of 4 hours. Time is an illusion. I knew I wanted you 6 months ago. I've just been patient. His smile was wicked. My patience is now exhausted. What if I'm not ready? Then I'll wait. But I'll be waiting close, Gyeongyang. Very close. He led her upstairs to a bedroom that was clearly prepared for her, not his master suite, but a guest room that somehow felt intimate. Luxurious bedding, fresh flowers, a selection of sleepwear laid out. How did you? I'm an optimist. Day one's grin was boyish, at odds with his dangerous reputation. The bathroom is stocked with anything you might need. I'm 3 doors down if you need anything. And Natalie. He paused at the door. Thank you for trusting me tonight. I don't take that gift lightly. After he left, Natalie sat on the bed, her mind spinning. 24 hours ago, she'd been trapped in a dying marriage, playing the role of the perfect wife. Now, she was in a Mafia king's home, having been kissed senseless, and feeling more alive than she had in years. Her phone buzzed. Multiple texts from Preston. Where are you? This is ridiculous. Come home. We need to talk about this like adults. Fine. If you want a divorce so badly, you'll get nothing. I'll make sure of it. There was the Preston she knew. The moment she didn't comply, he went for the throat. Natalie blocked his number. Then she called her attorney, Martin Cross, who handled her gallery's legal matters. She didn't care that it was nearly midnight. Natalie. Martin answered on the second ring, alert despite the hour. I need you to handle my divorce. Fast and ruthless. Preston is going to fight dirty. I can have papers filed tomorrow. Washington is a no-fault state, but if he contests, he will. He's already threatening me. Natalie kept her voice steady. I want this done, Martin. Whatever it takes. Understood. I'll start immediately. After she hung up, Natalie changed into the silk pajamas left for her, somehow perfectly her size, and climbed into the incredibly comfortable bed. She should be terrified. Should be questioning every choice. Instead, for the first time in years, she felt like herself. The next week was chaos. Preston contested the divorce, filing motions claiming Natalie had abandoned their marriage. He froze their joint accounts, which Natalie had anticipated and already moved her money from. He called her family, trying to turn them against her. What he didn't know was that Natalie's brother, Julian, had been waiting for this call. Preston called. Julian told her over video chat, his dark eyes amused. Told me you'd lost your mind, run off with some criminal, that I needed to talk sense into you. What did you say? Natalie asked, curled up in Day One's home office while he worked quietly beside her. I told him that if he ever contacted our family again, he'd regret it. Then I may have mentioned that our father was very interested to learn about the prenup Preston had you sign under duress. Julian's smile was sharp. Preston went very quiet. I signed that prenup willingly. After he told you his family would never accept you otherwise, and that it was just a formality since you'd never divorce anyway. Coercion, sister. Legal duress. Julian leaned closer to the screen. Now, tell me about this Korean Mafia boss you're supposedly shacking up with. Day One looked up from his laptop, one eyebrow raised in amusement. Natalie flushed. I'm not shacking up. Kang Day One, Julian interrupted, clearly reading from something off-screen. 34. Head of the West Coast Korean Mafia. Estimated net worth of $2.3 billion. Controls ports, entertainment districts, has politicians and judges in his pocket. Rumored to be ruthless but fair. Never married. No children. And apparently obsessed with my sister. Your intelligence is impressive, Day One called out, loud enough for the phone to pick up. Julian grinned. I'm Adiwale Odili's son. Intelligence gathering is what we do. Is my sister safe with you? Safer than she's ever been, Day One replied seriously. You have my word. Your word means something in your world. Good. Julian's expression sobered. Natalie, father wants to talk to you. Natalie stiffened. No. He's dying. The world tilted. What? Liver cancer. 6 months, maybe less. Julian's voice was gentle. He wants to see you. To make amends. He had 7 years to make amends. I know. And I told him you'd probably say no. But I promised I'd ask. Julian sighed. Think about it, okay? No pressure. Whatever you decide, I support you. After they hung up, Natalie sat in silence. Day One closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. Tell me what you need. I don't know. Natalie's voice was small. I've been so angry at him for so long. And now he's dying, and I don't know if I can forgive him. Forgiveness isn't for him. It's for you. Day One pulled her from her chair into his lap, wrapping his arms around her. Over the past week, they'd fallen into this intimacy, small touches, casual affection, sleeping in separate rooms but spending every waking moment together. But you don't owe him anything, Gyeong-yang. Not your time, not your forgiveness, not your presence. What would you do? I'd go. Because I'd regret it if I didn't, and I'd always wonder. His hand rubbed soothing circles on her back. But I'm not you. Only you know what you need. Natalie buried her face in his neck, breathing in his scent, cedar and something uniquely him. Come with me. To Nigeria. To see my father. If I go, I don't want to do it alone. Day One pulled back to look at her. You want me to meet your dying crime lord father while you're still technically married to another man? When you put it that way. I'll have the plane ready in 2 hours. Natalie laughed, the sound surprised out of her. You have a plane. Gyeongyang, I have 3 planes. He kissed her forehead. And I'd fly commercial if it meant being with you. Lagos, Nigeria hit Natalie like a wall of memories. The heat, thick and humid. The sound of pidgin English mixing with Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. The organized chaos of traffic, the colors, the energy that pulsed through the city like a living heartbeat. She'd forgotten how much she missed it. Day One stood beside her as they exited his private jet, his hand at the small of her back. He dressed simply, black slacks, black shirt, but he still radiated power and danger. Your city is beautiful, he murmured. Wait until you taste the food. Natalie smiled despite her nerves. 3 black SUVs waited on the tarmac, along with Julian, who swept Natalie into a hug that lifted her off her feet. Sister, you're too skinny. Has this man not been feeding you? Julian set her down, turning to Day One with an assessing gaze. Kang Day One. Interesting choice. Julian. Day One offered his hand. Instead of shaking it, Julian pulled him into a brief hug, the kind of masculine embrace that also served as a subtle intimidation tactic. When they separated, both men were smiling slightly. You'll do, Julian said. Come, we shouldn't keep father waiting. The drive to the Odili compound took an hour, winding through Lagos traffic into the wealthy Victoria Island district. The compound was exactly as Natalie remembered. High walls, armed security, a mansion that was part fortress, part palace. Home sweet home, she muttered. Day One squeezed her hand. I'm right here. Inside, the house was filled with family, aunties and uncles, cousins, siblings. Natalie was swept into embraces, questions in multiple languages, exclamations over how long it had been. And then she saw him. Adewale Odili sat in his study, and the sight of him stole Natalie's breath. He'd always been a large man, powerful and intimidating. Now, he seemed diminished, his skin ashen, his powerful frame reduced by illness. But his eyes were the same, sharp, intelligent, missing nothing. Natalie. His voice was still strong. My daughter. You came. I'm still angry with you, Natalie said without preamble. As you should be. Adewale gestured to the chairs across from his desk. Sit, please. You as well, Kang Day One. I've heard much about you. Sir. Day One sat after Natalie did, his posture respectful but not submissive. You've been taking care of my daughter. She doesn't need taking care of, Day One replied. But yes, I've been trying to show her what it's like to be valued. Adewale smiled faintly. Good answer. He turned to Natalie. I have many regrets in my life. But letting you leave thinking I didn't love you is my greatest. You wanted me to be a tool, Natalie said, years of hurt pouring out. A weapon in your arsenal. You didn't care what I wanted. You're right. I saw your intelligence, your gift, and I thought only of how it could serve the family. The business. Adewale's hands shook slightly as he reached for a glass of water. I didn't see that I was crushing the very spirit that made you special. So why am I here? Deathbed apologies. Partially. But also, a gift. Adewale pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk. Your gallery. I've been a silent investor since you opened it. Natalie's eyes widened. What? 60% of your funding came from a shell corporation. My shell corporation. He smiled at her shock. You thought you did it alone. And you did. The vision, the work, the success is all yours. I just made sure you had the capital to realize your dream. Why? Because I'm a terrible father, but I wanted to support you the only way I knew how. Adewale coughed, the sound wet and painful. The company is yours now. Along with several clean businesses, real estate, import, export. Legitimate money, Natalie. Nothing tied to the darker parts of my empire. I don't want your money. It's not my money. It's yours. You've earned it. Adewale's gaze was intense. I'm dying, daughter. And I want to know that you'll be taken care of. That you'll have the resources to build the life you want. Natalie's throat tightened. Why didn't you ever just say you loved me? Because I'm a fool. Adewale's eyes grew wet. I love you, Natalie. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry I never made you feel it. The tears came then, years of pain and anger and hurt spilling out. Day One's hand found hers, anchoring her. I forgive you, Natalie whispered. I don't forget. But I forgive you. Adewale smiled through his own tears. That's more than I deserve. They talked for hours, about the past, about regrets, about hopes for whatever time remained. When they finally left his study, Natalie felt lighter, as if a weight she'd carried for years had finally lifted. That night, in the guest house on the compound, Day One held her while she cried and laughed and processed 1,000 emotions. Thank you, she said against his chest. For being here. Always, Gyeongyang. He kissed the top of her head. I meant what I said. I'm falling in love with you. Actually, no. I've fallen. Completely. Irrevocably. Natalie pulled back to look at him. We've known each other 2 weeks. I knew in 2 seconds. His hand cupped her face. The rest has just been falling deeper. I'm still married. Not for long. Your attorney called while you were with your father. Preston signed the divorce papers. Natalie's heart stuttered. What? Apparently, someone had a conversation with him about the consequences of dragging this out. He decided cooperation was in his best interest. Day One's smile was sharp. You'll be officially divorced in 60 days. Someone had a conversation. You. I may have paid him a visit. Very civil. I simply explained that you deserved your freedom, and any attempt to delay it would be unwise. Day One, what did you do? Nothing illegal. I promised you I'd protect you. Preston was trying to hurt you out of spite. I ensured he understood that would be a mistake. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. I won't apologize for defending what's mine. I'm not yours yet. Aren't you? His eyes searched hers. Tell me you don't feel this, Natalie. Tell me your heart doesn't race when I touch you. Tell me you don't think about me every moment we're apart. Tell me you're not falling too. She couldn't. Because it was all true. This is insane, she breathed. The best things usually are. He leaned closer, his lips hovering over hers. Say it, Gyeongyang. Say you're mine. And what will I be? Your girlfriend? Your mistress? What? My wife. The words were said with absolute certainty. My partner. My queen. The woman I build an empire with and come home to. The one I'd burn the world for and the one who keeps me human. You're proposing. Not yet. You're still married, and I have some traditional hoops to jump through. He glanced toward the main house where her family was. But yes, Natalie O'Dilly. When you're free, I'm going to ask you to be mine forever. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make you say yes. You're insane. About you? Absolutely. He finally closed the distance, kissing her with a passion that made her toes curl. This time, when they fell into bed, it was with purpose. Clothes disappeared, barriers fell, and Natalie finally let herself have what she'd been craving. Day One worshipped her body like the treasure he claimed she was, and Natalie discovered that power and surrender could coexist. That she could be strong and vulnerable. That she could be herself, all of herself, and be loved for it. 3 months later, Natalie stood in her new gallery space in downtown Seattle, 3 times larger than her original location, in a building Day One had purchased and renovated to her exact specifications. The opening gala was in full swing. Seattle's elite mingled with artists, collectors, and a few dangerous-looking individuals who were clearly from Day One's world. You've outdone yourself, Julian said, appearing at her elbow with champagne. This is incredible, sister. Thank you for the pieces. Natalie gestured to several sculptures from Nigerian artists her brother had helped her source. They're perfect. Father would have loved this. Julian's smile was bittersweet. Adewale O'Dilly had passed away 6 weeks ago, peacefully in his sleep. Natalie had been there, holding his hand, their relationship healed if not perfect. He would have, Natalie agreed softly. And he would have loved him. Julian nodded toward where Day One stood, looking devastating in a tailored suit, speaking with a senator whose campaign he'd funded. Even if the man is terrifying. He's not terrifying. Natalie, he disappeared 3 men who were planning to rob your gallery. They're apparently now working construction in Alaska and sending you apology letters weekly. They weren't going to rob the gallery, they were going to burn it down, Natalie corrected. And Day One didn't kill them. He gave them new lives. That's almost kind. You've adapted to this world frighteningly well. Natalie laughed. I was raised in it, remember? I just forgot for a while. Day One caught her eye across the room, and the heat in his gaze made her flush. 3 months together, and he still made her heart race. They were engaged now, a proposal on a rooftop under the stars, with a ring that had belonged to his mother. Simple. Perfect. Terrifying. Her divorce had been finalized last week. Preston had taken his settlement and moved to California with his paralegal. Natalie had wished him well and meant it. That chapter was closed. I should circulate, Julian said. Try not to fuck your fiancé in public. It's unseemly. I'm going to tell Mother you said that. Mother knows I'm crude. She's accepted it. Julian kissed her cheek. Be happy, sister. You've earned it. As the night wore on, Natalie worked the room with the skill her father had taught her, reading people, making connections, building bridges. But now, she was doing it for herself, for her vision, for the empire she was building. At midnight, after the last guest left, Natalie stood in the center of her gallery, taking it all in. Day One appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Successful night, Gyeongyang. We sold 17 pieces. Made connections with 4 new artists. And I think the Seattle Times critic actually smiled. Natalie leaned back against him. Thank you. For all of this. You built this. I just provided the space. You provided so much more. She turned in his arms. A partnership. Support. Freedom to be myself. You gave me the same. His hand tilted her chin up. I was a king of shadows. You brought me into the light. That's very poetic for a mafia boss. You bring out my romantic side. He kissed her softly. Come home with me. I have something to show you. What? It's a surprise. Natalie smiled warmly, but one thing she didn't know was that happiness was a luxury that didn't come cheap in her father's world. What Natalie didn't know, what her father had hidden from her even on his deathbed, was that Adewale Odili owed a debt. Not money. Something far more dangerous. A promise made 20 years ago to the Volkov Bratva, the Russian mafia that controlled the Eastern European diamond trade. A promise sealed in blood. When the time came, they could claim one favor. No questions asked. And they were calling it in now. The moment Natalie had set foot in Nigeria, she'd been marked. Tracked. Photographed. The Volkovs didn't just want money or territory. They wanted leverage over the Korean mafia's expansion into their ports. And Natalie, the beloved daughter of a dead king, the fiancée of the West Coast's most powerful crime lord, was the perfect pawn. 3,000 miles away in a Moscow penthouse, Alexei Volkov studied surveillance photos of Natalie and Day One at her gallery opening. His cold grey eyes lingered on the Korean man's protective stance, the way he touched her like she was precious. Perfect, Alexei murmured in Russian, his scarred face twisting into a smile. We take her, and Kang Day One will hand us everything we want. The ports. The territory. His entire empire. His second-in-command shifted uncomfortably. And if he refuses? Then we send him pieces of her until he agrees. Alexei lit a cigarette. But he won't refuse. I've done my research. Kang Day One is ruthless, yes. But he's also in love. Love makes men weak. Predictable. He exhaled smoke. Send the team to Seattle. I want her taken within the week. Back in Seattle, Natalie had no idea that the shadows were already closing in. That the men who'd been watching her gallery weren't art